This story is about a woman. A woman gifted with visions. She is an author of 40 books and were translated into 160 languages. This story is about a woman who started to change the course of health history by establishing hospitals and motivating the public to live a healthy lifestyle. Her influence on health, education, and faith resulted to the 20 million Seventh-day Adventists worldwide.
This woman once lived, wrote, and shared God's message of salvation through this house. This house is a witness how a prophetic writer lived 100 years ago. Welcome to the Ellen Gold White's residence. Our docent for today is Pastor Abner Castañon.
Hello, we are at the home of Ellen G. White, and we're going to show you some of her things that she has here. She lived in this house from 1900 to 1915. While she was here, she wrote 9 books. Right behind me are the 9 books that you can see. The books is Education, Ministry of Healing, Gospel Workers, Counsels to Parents, Students, and Teachers, Acts of the Apostles, Prophets and Kings, and Testimonies to the Church, Volumes 7, 8, and 9. As you can see, it's a variety of subjects. Subjects in education, in health, in schooling, and also faith-based, Bible-based faith. Here is a most famous painting of Ellen White. It's an original painting. Underneath are the 62 books that she wrote. Ellen White is the #1 author in the history of literature in the United States, male or female, religious or secular. No one has written as many books as she has. No one has been translated in as many languages as she has, 160 languages, and no one has written as many pages as Ellen White, 100,000 pages of manuscripts. Here is the dining room. Mrs. White was a lacto-ovo vegetarian, so she did not eat meat. All the dishes in here were vegetarians. She only ate 2 meals per day, one about 7 o'clock in the morning, and the other one about 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She said that being a vegetarian is going to give you a longer life. And it's a proven fact now that vegetarians live from 7 to 10 years longer. And if you're a vegan, you're going to live up to 15 years longer. So you might want to try being a vegetarian if you want a healthier lifestyle. Mrs. White was also very modern because she had a telephone, as you can see there in the wall. We do have a telephone directory from 1912. And we have her telephone number if you would like to see that. We'll go here to the right and we can see the kitchen. It was a wood burning stove. This would get very hot and Mrs. White would cook in here. She would not allow any cooking on Friday night after sundown or the Sabbath, but she always had a warm meal every Sabbath. How did she do it? She was very modern, like I told you. She had this, what's called a fireless cooker. To her, it was like a modern crock pot or a microwave oven. She would cook this, maybe vegetables here, and the stone would be put in the fire, and maybe she might have had some pancit to cook. So she would cook it halfway, put it in here, the rock in here, and this other pot back in here, and this was very well insulated. She would shut it, lock it, and during the Friday night when they slept, it finished cooking. When she came home from church on Sabbath at noon, it was still warm. So she always had a nice warm meal without having to cook on the Sabbath hours. This typewriter here is where all the 9 books that Ellen White wrote, they were written on that typewriter. She brought this chair with her from Australia, where she wrote the book Desire of Ages, and she also wrote the 9 books that we have in this house during the 15 years that she was here. One Sabbath morning, she walked in here, fell down on the floor. They took her to the sanitarium, and they found out she had a broken left hip. They could do nothing for her except give her this hospital bed, and Mrs. White spent her last 5 months in this hospital bed until the day that she died. 6 days later, Mrs. White dies. And the day that she died, her secretary was kneeling down here at the foot of her bed. She gets up and goes to this clock here and stops the clock at the exact time that Ellen White died. She died August 16th, 1915. It was a Friday afternoon, and Mrs. White rested for the Sabbath.
History is sometimes an ignored subject, especially if it is church-related. But King Solomon in Ecclesiastes 1, 9 and 10 says, "What has been done is what will be. What has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun." Wisdom from the past would lead us to understand those who fought before us and learn from them so that we can carry out our duties more effectively. Ellen White's writings are written decades ago, but the wisdom in it is still relevant today. May you find the joy and clarity of God's message as you read them. From Ellen White's house here in St. Helena, California, this is your friend, Charm Pamisa Sananing for Panimbaya sa Kabuntagon World.